It's not a procurement, because the government's not trying to buy vetting activities. The government actually doesn't like vetting activities, it's trying to restrict them. So it's why it's having a tendering procedure to say only people we authorise can do this. It's not saying once you've got a licence you have to do it. They would actually prefer you didn't, but they recognise that this activity does happen, they're going to allow it, but they're going to regulate it. But it's still, so it was basically not covered by the procurement directives, but that kind of activity is covered by the treaty. Okay. And in that case, the authorising body had asked that anybody who was going to be given authorisation to do this activity had to produce certificates from 2 banks to show their financial stability. And the argument was, well, that's quite burdensome, because who has 2, which commercial organisation has 2 banks? You often just have 1 banker. So if you ask for references from 2, that's unreasonable, it's disproportionate, and it restricts your right to participate in economic activity. But the court seemed to take the view, no, it's fine. It's the discretion of the authorising body to decide what evidence they want for you to show your financial stability. But the question is, does that apply to procurement? And I don't think it does. I think there's a difference in the procurement case. If you look at the procurement directives, they basically, when they're talking about evidence of your financial stability, you can ask for certain types of evidence, but the economic operator, the tenderer, has to be allowed to provide other documents. If it can't provide the evidence you specify, like your 2 bank references, it has to be able to provide other evidence, as long as the authority considers it appropriate. So the question is, what does that mean? Does the authority have a wide discretion on what's appropriate? I suspect probably not. I suspect probably the court will be quite strict in saying, because this is regulated, we actually trying to limit the barriers to participation, and that the authority has to accept evidence if it's reasonable evidence. So I'm not sure you would be able to ask for 2 references from 2 separate banks. And I think this comes out of that case. They were explaining really how it's different from procurement directives. They emphasised first of all that it was about gambling, and they don't like to interfere with member states' discretion over gambling. It's a very sensitive area. So I think it makes that a special case, that they don't want to really restrict what member states are doing in that area, and if member states have strict requirements, that's okay. And the court also emphasised in the Domenico-Politano case that the area wasn't regulated. It's different from procurement. Procurement, it is regulated under the directives. They were saying that this authorisation of betting is not regulated by any harmonising laws. So I think that's 2 big differences from the procurement case. And I think that in the procurement case, a contracting authority really has to justify why it needs these specific references. And it must allow other evidence from a tenderer, unless the authority really, I think, can show why that evidence isn't suitable. So I'm not sure, I think that actually, the point about that case is that the court emphasised certain features that were very different from procurement, which I think would not be directly applied in the same way to procurement. Okay.